Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever episode of SmackYard Radio, my new wrestling podcast here. I am your host, Anthony Aries, the king of not the shit like Sam Reeves, who's my first guest here tonight. No. I am the king of Backyard Wrestling Podcast because this is my fourth goddamn podcast series that I have started. We had the FBW Undisputable podcast, we had Shooting with the Saint. We had a short-lived Curse of Aries Live. We had a short-lived fucking Razor Talk. I had all these podcasts, but we've rebranded to something more generic, not character-based, so I can keep this thing around to shoot the shit with some of my backyard wrestling buddies and just talk wrestling and tell stories. But here today, like I mentioned, we have the one, the only, Sam Reeves. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing amazing. This is my first time being on this podcast. I'm just ready to get into it.
Yeah, guys, we're not gonna lie. We're not gonna lie to you guys. This is an honest podcast, okay? We filmed this for like goddamn 40 fucking minutes, and then I realized OBS was not recording Sam Reeves' audio. So 40 minutes, real conversation, good stuff, quality stuff, down the drain into the recycling bin. But hey, we still got a lot to talk about because you, my friend, have been a really big focal point in FBW. Something, all these partnerships in SGW, in FBW, something that we've dreamed of and talked about for many years because our friendship, we've said this so many times, our friendship has gone way back and we've talked about so much. So, like, a lot of this is honestly a dream come true. But this year for yourself, you've seen FBW Match of the Year. You've seen the FBW United States Championship. You've seen the FBW Undisputed Championship. Actually, currently, you are the FBW Undisputed Champion. So, man, how has 2024 been for you, my friend?
I cannot complain. I have held it all, and I've seen the mountaintops, and I have not seen the valleys. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for a few other people, it's been great though. Like all BS aside, 2024 was an amazing year for FBW and myself. I'm thankful for it.
I mean, shit. You and me were talking last night, and you brought up something that I kind of want to deep dive and dissect here on the podcast with you. Um, is we were talking about old memories of EBW, SGW, FBW, and you brought up something to me because I normally refer to the prime of FBW as in the years of like 2016, 2015. But you made a point to correct me and say that the prime of FBW is now. So what makes you think that the prime of FBW is now? Because honestly, like I've thought about it and I kind of agree with you. I think FBW is in its prime right now.
This is gonna sound very biased, probably, and you're probably not gonna agree with this. None of the OGs are gonna agree with this. But for me, I feel like we're on top right now as far as I feel like everybody's starting to take us serious or more serious than they ever have. Um, the South, in my opinion, has always been underappreciated. It's always been let's go to the Northeast, let's go to this state, let's go to that state, and like this past year, we've shown that now is the prime. Sports Wire, we've been on that basically all 2024. Um, and then like we have talented guys right now, like Big B. If you're not taking him serious, unfortunately for you, yourself, me, Ryan Blade, Draven, we just picked up Felix, and I don't know how to say his name. But you know, we have. I feel like we're in the prime now, and on top of that, the production level is amazing right now.
Yeah, and like I think the only reason why I refer to like the prime days of like back then was mostly because like shit like back then like for those years of like 20 15 2016 that's when FBW had its biggest home state roster cuz shit like back then it was me, Chris Dynamite, Eric Danger, Jared Payne, Colin the Beast, We then had my wife Ruby. Like, we had all of these people, but realistically, yeah, like looking at it, now is the prime because like now our work rate has been better than it's ever been. We have so many partnerships. Like we're partnered with Sportswire Radio. Um, we have a merch site. Like I would have never thought I would be selling actual merch to actual people making money off of this. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. Like you said, our production is way better than what our production was back in the day. So yeah, no, I completely agree. FBW is in its prime right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will always, respect my roots, even though, like, let's be honest, FBW quality wasn't that great. But hey, we all start from somewhere, we all learn, and wrestling is a sport, where you're always learning. You never stop learning in wrestling. Um, and yeah, I mean, our roster is stacked right now. And I do agree with you. Everybody sleeps on the South. Like nobody wants to travel down here. The only reason why, like, you come down to Florida or I went up to Georgia, we're only 4 hours away. That's barely a drive, But nobody, these top stars, which I don't believe in star power in backyard wrestling. They never want to travel down. What is your thoughts about star power in backyard wrestling? This is SmackYard Radio. Let's talk a little controversial. Let's talk a little heat. What is your opinions on people when they say they have star power in backyard wrestling?
It's easy to say that. Literally, all I had to do to be able to say that is travel, spend all my money to go travel up north, out west. Just go to these other places, and I'm automatically a big star just because I traveled. Good for you. The fuck do you want a pat on the back? Like nobody in backyard wrestling is a star just because you travel. I mean, okay, at that point, that's what indie wrestlers do. They travel. So what are you trying to say? I mean,
I think it boils down to like we're not mainstream. Backyard wrestling is just a small underground niche. So how are you a star if you're not? Like for me, star power is like you're mainstream. Like you're really out there. You're like borderline famous. That is not any of us. Nobody in mainstream looks at backyard wrestling and us as like, you know, something worthy to put up on a pedestal. And, really, I think star power in backyard wrestling mostly also comes down to whose ass you kiss and how much.
exactly. Look, I'm not going to name companies, but years ago, I outed a company for doing something they shouldn't be doing. And then everybody forgave them. They became the top place for all the top guys to go. And we saw it happen.
Yeah,
They fell
people
again.
got their priorities way wrong in backyard wrestling.
So, what I would say is quit kissing ass. Quit saying you're top star because you're not. Because eventually everybody's going to have a downfall. And none of us are stars, like you said. All right, I want you to tell me this. All the big stars, if you're listening or watching, tell me how much money you've made from backyard wrestling. Please, tell me. Show me.
Well,
Please, I would love.
not only that, like if we went into like a wrestling community group chat or page and we mentioned some of these backyard wrestling names, they'd be like, "Who the
They
fuck
would
is that?" Yeah, they'd be like, "Who the fuck is that?" I mean, look, I respect everybody's work and that they put into what they do. I respect everybody's efforts, but one thing that I hate is like when people are like, "Oh, I'm a top star. I got to come to your fed. I got to be champ. I got to do this. I got to be in this position." Like, brother, we're all backyard people. We're in the underground. If we're in the underground, nobody's a star underground. Okay?
The only time, okay, if I start my company, this is very wild for me to say, I guess. Nobody is coming in and saying they're gonna have anything they want until they can show me how many asses they put in seats, how much money they've made for not only themselves, for other companies.
You know what?
Nobody in wrestling could say anything. None of them have made anything. So nobody's a star.
You know,
Nobody is
and another thing is like the metrics of backyard wrestling are so like not like because like so many, weirdos, bots, pedophiles, and creeps fill the viewer base of backyard wrestling. We've had, we had a pedophile scandal that honestly has kind of quieted down, but like we have so many bots and weirdos and shit that fill views because they have their weird fantasies. So if you call that star power and real views, hey, it's 2025, new year. I'm not judging, but just kind of keep that agenda to yourself. And I know this segment, well, we're starting off fucking heated. It's probably gonna get us some hate and some, shit. And like, I'm not just saying all this shit because I'm just mad that nobody has wanted to travel down to FBW. But like,
this is things that need to be said.
yeah, like I don't know. I don't believe in draws and star power in backyard wrestling because most of it is like, people may not want to admit it, but most of it is just, kiss assing to get people to follow you, really. Or it's
There,
just you got some good
there's
looks and the pedophiles really want to come see you
yeah,
on the screen.
there is only one company, and I mean I'm not going to name them because if you know, you know, that has it that can even think about saying they have star power because they're actually good.
You're talking about
But guess
ESW?
what? I talked to the owner, and he doesn't even say that. He doesn't say, "Oh, I'm the biggest star in the
Who are you
world."
talking about? Talking about
Or,
ESW? Oh, are we? Honestly, I think the only Fed that realistically can have any say is ESW. Because shit, they're OGs of the whole backyard wrestling community, and they're borderline indie.
yeah, and they don't even like sit here and say, "Oh, I'm a big star. You're gonna hand me this. I'm gonna do that."
I mean, I don't
No,
personally know how ESW runs their shit behind the scenes. I don't know how they are as real human beings, but
but
they're
what I mean is,
borderline indie, and they've been doing backyard wrestling and all this shit for so long. Like, they have the credibility, because they can host shows but obviously they're
yeah,
not a full indie. But I mean, I think that's the only, like, like Jack Delta, he went to ESW, and like I think like that is something to be like, okay, you can brag about
yeah.
that. You know what I'm saying?
I'll tell you what. I'll give him that because I've never hated Jack. I've never had a problem with Jack. In fact, he's helped me before. So I'll give him this. He went to ESW. He went to a place where you got to actually try. They're not just going to give you what you want.
Yeah, like it's so easy to go to some of these backyard wrestling feds, like just like it doesn't take much, but like I think like ESW, they're like the pinnacle of backyard wrestling, honestly, because like they're the only OG like that's left, in our niche. Like I mean, like CHW, they went out of business. KBW went out of business. ESW, they're an OG and they're still going, they're still going hard, and all of their connections and, foundation that they've built, I think that they're like the only credible backyard wrestling company out there. I don't know if I don't know who can ever accomplish like what they've accomplished, because shit, ESW has accomplished so much. Like no federation is on their level. I'm not gonna lie.
They
Um,
have actual fans in attendance. Like a lot of the times, they'll like they have actual events and they have fans in attendance.
yeah,
So like,
ESW was really something special. Like for me, I grew up on ESW. Like when I first discovered this whole backyard wrestling community shit, it was ESW. And like I know like for others, it was one of the three. It was either KBW, CHW, or ESW. And for me it was ESW. They
yeah,
were like the ones I grew up on and like I really followed, Mostly because, I saw that they were doing shit on the ground and I didn't have nothing and I wanted to do this. I know CHW was on the ground too, but I don't know, just ESW's like production and like vibe and like aesthetic and like their crowd, just the environment. Like ESW was really something special. Um, so what federation did you grow up on when you discovered backyard wrestling?
I grew up on KBW. Like, okay, so I when when I was a kid, all I knew was professional wrestling. But I knew my cousin had a trampoline, and it was in his backyard. So I was like, let me see if anybody on YouTube does this. So I looked up backyard wrestling, and so that's when I found KBW, and I just fell in love instantly. Like, because I think at the time that's when they had the Royal Rumble, where I don't know if you know anything about them, but they had a big guy, like fat guy, named
Talking about
Bulldozer, and he flipped
yeah.
the
No,
trampoline.
see, like in my later years, like I did venture out in backyard wrestling, and like I've watched KBW, I've watched CHW. Just for me, like just ESW was like my main. Like I would like always go back to ESW. I would always care to want to like check out when is their next upload, or like when their next upload drops, I have to watch it. But like I
Yeah.
definitely respect KBW and stuff. But what about KBW resonated with you?
Um, I don't even remember. I know the gritty, like they're on the trampoline. I can do that. And like at the time, me and my cousin would try to copy literally everything they did. Like, like even down to the names. He would be AK-47, and I would be Cage, or
Who is
he would
your
be
who is your
Bulldozer.
favorite KBW wrestler?
Mine was Cage, and they like for the longest it was Cage, and then like it
You
whenever
seem
I
like an
started liking,
AK-47 guy. I'm not gonna lie.
but that's when it switched because like as a child, at first I started out liking the good guy, so obviously I was with Cage, and then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I like bad guys more. So I was like, AK-47, that's my guy, and I stuck with him to the end. After that,
You ever watch ESW or no?
I watched it one time, but the one time I watched, it was like really really hardcore, and I wasn't a fan of that style.
For me, my guy was MOD, and like obviously, like I've told this on a podcast before. MOD was my favorite backyard wrestler of all time, still is. And he's still going. Which is pretty cool to see. But like that's where I got inspiration from, you know, for my name ALM, because I was having trouble finding a wrestling name. So I was like, fuck man, MOD, he's my guy. I'll just do initial, because like I thought MOD was his initials, but turns out it was just the initials for the Master of Disaster. So I was like, but for me, being a fucking dumbass, I was like, oh, that's his name initials. I'll just do my name initials. And then I just did ALM. And then it stuck for goddamn years, man. Years.
When we met, you're still ALM.
Yeah, when we met, I was ALM from 2014 to
2018 or 19,
2020.
I think.
2020.
2020, yeah, yeah, because that's when I started showing up to EBW.
Yeah, I was ALM all the way up until 2020. It was the summer of Yeah, the summer of 2020. That's when because like when we built that makeshift ring and we did all that big, thing, that's when I had my first show as Anthony Aries. Um Shit, a little fun fact, the only reason why, like, you may wonder like, whoa, what was your name before 2014 then? Cuz FBW started in 2012. My first wrestling name was Razor Rage. Now I'm now the Razor Rage, but it's like my nickname. But like back when I first started, my name was like Razor Rage, just the Razor Rage. I thought that
The
shit was
only
so bad.
the only other name I ever had was Aaron Reeves. The Reeves part has always been there.
Yeah, no, I know we dissected that on the Shooting with the Saint episode. Um, I like, for me, names is so like, it's such an interesting part of like a wrestler's story that I love hearing, because like your name is like your big thing. Because like you may think like, oh, like your logo is, because like that's like merchandise, you got to sell your merchandise, but like most times people just see your name, whether it's on a post or like they're reading something. The first thing that they find out and discover, and what sticks, with your fan base or whatever, is your name. So like I'm so curious about how people come up with their names. For me, um, I talked about MOD, and that's how I got ALM. But like the Razor Rage, I don't really remember why or how or whatever. I just remember uh playing SmackDown versus Raw 2009. I made a guy and I named him Razor Rage. Don't know why or how. But then when I started FBW in 2012, me and Chris were talking. I was like, shit, we need names. I was like, wait, my guy on SmackDown versus Raw is Razor Rage. There we go. I'm the Razor Rage. And then I realized some fucking 50-pound white kid. There ain't no fucking Razor Rage. Now like it means something because like now like FBW has been on borrowed time for so long. Like now for this run, I kind of want to pay homage to like my roots and my beginnings. So like now I think I can fit the role of like a Razor Rage as like with it being a nickname more. So like that's
Yeah.
kind of the story of like the Razor Rage. But um, let's talk about you coming back to FBW. And I know we just did like you know a good solid 15 minutes of like fucking attracting the fucking hate magnet with all of our statements in the beginning. Come take it all. I don't give a fuck. But let's talk about you coming down to FBW because I know like the Shooting with the Same podcast. We mostly talked about our times and the history of SGW, but now you are under my federation, my umbrella, FBW. How does it feel overall to be a part of FBW after all of our talks and years of friendship?
It's I don't want to say weird, but like, okay. Every time I make a decision, I think about what would me 5 years think. If you asked me 5 years ago, or tell me 5 years ago, hey, you're going to be an FBW and you're going to be the champion, I'm going to laugh in your face. Like that's all you're going to get is me laughing in your face. So it's weird being the champion, also being an FBW, but being the champion. It's very weird.
Yeah,
But
because our friendship goes like a long way. We've literally dreamed about all of this shit for so many years. As we formed our friendship.
yeah, and now it's happening, and like, I mean, it's fun though. Like, I'm very honored to be able to be in the position I'm in because a lot of people don't know this, but I'm not very much a backyard wrestling person. Like at one point, I loved it. I was obsessed with it. Now I'm like, I love FBW. So like, my goal is I want to build FBW. I want FBW to be the biggest company in backyard wrestling, which means I got to put in the work as the champion.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the position I'm in, and I'm coming back soon, like very, very soon. Because obviously, for those that don't know, we have to do film days because I still live in Georgia, but I travel
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, no, and I because like back then in FBW when I was only relying on home base people, we were just doing like we filmed once a month and like we filmed for that month, and like pre-taping is such a goddamn savior. I don't know why I did not do it back then. Pre-taping would have saved me so much goddamn shows back in the day, but so you're in FBW now, and like before you were doing FBW, I know like in 2023, you and me, we did our partnership up in SGW. What are some differences that you've experienced, for better, for worse, between SGW and FBW? Let's
Okay,
dissect this. Let's get the juice out of this.
number one, it's a way bigger platform. SUW, it was unrecognized by anybody that I personally didn't introduce them to. So if I didn't go out and individually to individual person say, hey, can you please go watch this? Hey, can you please go watch this? Nobody knew. So if there was a show that I didn't promote or you weren't on, it was nothing.
So what do you
Now
think?
being
What do you think that? What do you think led to that of SGW not being exposed? What do you think caused that lack of exposure?
for me, looking back, and I take full blame because most of it is actually my fault. Um, a factor in it would be the storylines because if you go back and look, some of them will start out of nowhere, and then they will disappear instead of ending, which is my fault. Um, Another thing is like nobody was promoting as much as me in the SGW. Before you came in, obviously, like I was the only one that shared the stuff. Like we have the most popular video before you came was Damian Prime versus Ryan Blade match. And they used to love to talk shit about how they had the most viewed video. But, little secret they don't know is I made sure that got shared around just as much as I could. So that match is only as popular as it is because it got shared around. So that's the biggest part I would say is nobody promoted an SGW but me, which I get it. I'm the owner. That's my job.
Well, no,
But, I mean, come on.
I mean, definitely backyard wrestling. It's a team effort because, like I said earlier in this podcast, like backyard wrestling is such a small niche and such an underground thing. Like, if you really want to try to gain, if you really want to try to get to like the big, like the ceiling and like really be like up there, um, it takes a group effort. I'm not gonna lie, and some people may think like, oh, it's just backyard wrestling. How much work can it, like, how much do you put in? Like, it's just backyard wrestling. I mean, really, like, it takes a lot to try to, because like with backyard wrestling being such a small niche and like underground shit, like it takes a lot to try to get to the ceiling of where backyard wrestling can go, you know? And if you want to
Yeah,
get to that ceiling and really be like a big company with a good foundation, you got to put the work in it, you know? Um, so what else are some other differences, for better or for worse, between SGW and FBW that you've experienced?
I'm way more popular, and I'm not used to that. Like, when I went on SportsWire, Tom knew exactly who I was. Shout out, by the way, to SportsWire.
Oh
Um,
yes, real
he
quick,
did back.
guys. Our sponsors for SmackYard Radio. We got the Backyard Wrestling Nexus. Go follow them for the showcase of good backyard wrestling, and SportsWire Radio. Thank you, Tom Bryce. You guys can also listen to this on SportsWire Radio's website with the Listen Now button. But back to Sam Reeves.
Um, Another one is like an SGW. I had no one to really push me to be my best. Damien, we're close friends, so he tried, but it's different when it's coming from someone you see every day versus someone you don't see every day. So like I'm not the owner no more, so it's not like I can just say no. I have to actually try, and having someone to push me now to actually be the best version of myself, and not only that, actually helps me figure out, okay, how do I become that? Has helped me tremendously.
Yeah, no,
I'm
like
not saying,
for me,
like
I truly care about my guys. Like FBW, outside of us trying to really be like, a good, quality production, I care about my guys. Like, yes, I want to put on good content. I want to, do all this good business stuff. But at the end of the day, I view all of you guys as family. You
yeah,
know, like we're all a big family. You know, I care about all of your guys' health. I care about all of your guys' creative. I just want everybody to be safe in FBW, and on top of that, I want everybody to have a good run. For me personally, I've already had my run. I've had fucking 10 runs. One of them being in SGW, which I'm honored to have even been able to go out of state and been a champion outside of FBW and outside of my home. But, you know, then that leaves 9 title reigns on top. I've main evented so many Wrestle Bashes. I've done so many big time stories. I don't need the spotlight per se anymore. For new guys coming into FBW like yourselves and all that, like I want you guys to take the lead. I want you guys to be in the spotlight. I don't care to be in the spotlight no more. I've had my time, you know. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so SGW and FBW were definitely two different things. I mean, if we're being honest. Also, like, really how the company is run. Like, I mean, I've said this on a podcast before. No offense, brother. Love you, and I love SGW, and I'm really am thankful for my time in SGW. But SGW was ran so ass backwards. And what is your thoughts about that statement?
I have no problem with it because, like, okay, I, so far today, I've probably said so much bad about SGW. So let me get something straight. I loved my time there. I am very thankful for my time there. But to be completely honest, for the most part, it was just about the boys having fun. It was not really about um a serious production. At some points, I tried to have it like that, but then at other times, I was like, let's just have fun. And so it reflected a lot. So like, I fully agree with you, and like it was ran ass backwards because we were just fucking around, having a good time.
And like, there's nothing wrong with just running a backyard wrestling company and product of just having fun and not taking it seriously. Because I mean, shit, like backyard wrestling was built on just having fun back in the day. But then, over the generations, you know, some people kind of realized, I guess, like this is going to be their end destination in wrestling. Like they can't make it pro, they can't go to the indies or whatnot. Like in my case, so then people started being like, okay, well, let's see where we can take this. Because, like, shit, at one point, backyard wrestling was mainstream in the early 2000s, in the 90s. Backyard wrestling was mainstream. I mean, it hasn't gotten to that level ever since, but there is a ceiling for backyard wrestling, but it's a high ceiling. You can make it somewhere with it.
Yeah,
Some people think that they're above that ceiling, but I mean, regardless, we've talked about that in the beginning of this episode. Um, for me in FBW, I pride myself on trying to reach that ceiling. I try having a very professional, product, and I know that some people in FBW didn't really mesh well with that kind of production. But do you think what is your thoughts and opinions on, do you have a better fulfillment having a professional product or just having fun? Because you've experienced both in FBW and in SGW.
Um, as far as like when I go back and look at it, I prefer the professional side of things. Cause like if you go back and look at us just having fun, you can clearly tell we didn't care. The commentary was not serious, and I'm not shitting on that. That's what it was at the time. Like it was very much just a have fun product. So I mean, it's if I'm looking for nostalgia, it's okay to look back at. But if I'm looking to study my own stuff, it's kind of hard because at times we were just having fun. Whereas with FBW, with a professional environment, I can look at it and go, okay, here's what I need to fix. Here's this. Like, and I can, even if I just want to watch it, just to watch it, it's clean. I can watch it. It's professional. And like just the whole process of filming is way better.
Yeah. And I appreciate those words for FBW. And we're not trying to shit on SGW. Like we've said multiple times, I'm grateful for all the memories and the opportunities, uh, for my time in SGW. Shit, like, you guys for sure didn't even have to let me. You could have denied me coming into SGW. You could have not given me the SGW title, which let's break a little announcement here. I didn't want to win the SGW title. I fought against winning the SGW title, and that wasn't because I viewed, your SGW title, lesser than the FBW title. I mean, I think you can agree that FBW is bigger and more successful than SGW, but it had nothing to do with like ego or like where the brands were, cuz like ultimately me being SGW champion I think benefited the company, because I mean, shit, like when I came into SGW, I did so much behind the scenes for SGW, but like, you know, you didn't have to give me all that, you know. So like I appreciate my time. So like we're not trying to shit or, whatever on SGW. If you want to clarify anything more on that note.
Yeah, no, like when you came up, I was about to say came down. When you came up, like at that time, I was the champion. We had basically just put me as champion. And I didn't want to be champion, but at the same time, Damien didn't want to be champion because he's who I took it off of.
Mm-hmm.
Like okay, the title was never supposed to be on me or him. It was actually supposed to be on the show.
And the show quit
But
when I came in. So like there was nobody to be champion.
yeah, so like there was nobody to be champion. So I was like, all right, Anthony, you got to take it because
Yeah,
like
no, like I remember because like one, I don't know, it felt dirty to me because like one, like when I first came in and like the decision was made, like the show quit. So like I
Yeah,
already felt like I was rubbing people the wrong way. I didn't want to come in and take your title, and it wasn't like I needed the SGW title. Like when I held it and like I was going through my run, I felt like SGW needed me to be champion, not me needing to be SGW champion. And I helped
yeah.
SGW a lot out. I mean, if you want to discuss it, like shit, like I launched your Instagram, I launched the merch site, I bumped up some production. So like ultimately SGW failed, and or I wouldn't say failed because I mean it served its purpose, and people still
Yeah.
found entertainment from, and I had a wonderful time up in SGW. But what happened to the end of SGW?
The end of SGW, I fell into a dark time in my life, and through that dark time, I fell out of love with not only just wrestling, like watching it, but also backyard wrestling. Like I was done with it. I wanted to get as far away from it as I could, and that reflected because those that don't know, and again, I'm not shitting on SGW. That is forever my first home. Nobody got anything done without me there. If I wasn't around, nothing got done. So it just fell apart. Like it's as simple as that. I went through a dark time and it fell apart. And like I take full responsibility because for the longest time I did let everyone get away with, hey, I decide everything for you. So like that's all they expected. So
So
when that,
so basically like when you left, everybody else was like, okay, we're not doing nothing.
yeah, basically.
And then obviously the opportunity came to where FBW opened up, and then you came down. So how has it been? I mean, what led to you deciding, okay, I'm gonna sign on full time with FBW after SGW closed its doors?
Okay. So obviously everything from termination for your whole last run was filmed in like July, August, somewhere in there. So I had from then until I think when we came down, when we started planning to come down, what was that, February?
So when we planned your guys' trip to come to FBW the first time, it was like early 2024 because you guys came down. Spoiler, whatever, breaking the fourth wall. This is what the podcast is for. Was you guys came down in March of 2024?
Yeah, when we came, because we came down from my birthday weekend. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it took me a while to fall back in love with wrestling, but I got myself into a better mental state. So that, you know what? I told you I was going to come back or come down, so let me come down. And then at that point, it was just a matter of deciding what are we going to do, and that was very easy because like I think we both already knew it's got to be me versus you.
Yeah,
It
because I
has
mean,
to be.
our termination match really sucked. It really did.
Yeah,
There's no
yeah.
beating around the bush. I mean, from the car spot, and then onward to like the pile driver, marathon. That's really when the match started picking up, and before that, it was just a slow fucking fire fading away, just slow, boring stuff. And then it picked up, but overall, that match sucked, and really one of the major reasons why we did our Wrestle Bash feud and stuff was really to make up for termination, which I think Wrestle Bash did a pretty solid, job in. Um, we mentioned termination though. What is your thoughts about termination you versus me? That lackluster match being the last ever SGW match.
That match was an absolute dumpster fire. Okay, so number one, it's a million degrees that day. You have already wrestled 2 to 3 matches. We have already done 2 to 3 segments.
Yeah,
And
I was
then
exhausted.
I'm in the worst shape of my life. So we go into the match, and about 5 minutes in, I'm blown up. I literally cannot move. So I'm like, hey, ref, get me some water and tell Anthony what's going on. So, number one, he orders, well, not orders, as if this is a
He
fucking
said,
restaurant.
"Orders a fucking Uber meal water right now, mid match."
But he gets somebody to bring a water, and then
Yo,
he
that's
goes
where
to
the
Anthony.
car spot came from. We fucking beat up the Uber driver and we stole his car.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know whose car that was. I have no clue.
Jesus
Because
Christ. But no,
me,
go
I
on.
probably uni.
But yeah, no, so that match, man.
It was a fucking okay. And then also speaking about the car, we didn't tell anyone about that. So Luke Cannon, who's also in a referee shirt, because you know in SGW, if you're not wrestling, you're either a referee, cameraman, or you're in the crowd.
Yep.
So he has no clue what's going on because he's not the referee for the match.
Yeah, because
That
we
was
did inform the show, because like the only reason why we didn't tell nobody was because, you know, with the other guys being the crowd, we wanted like an authentic reaction, because that's a big spot. I mean, that spot was kind of dope. You know, obviously we had to tell the show because he's the ref. We didn't want him to get run over, but we weren't expecting, because we got the pop that we wanted to, we just didn't get the, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Because like we didn't want nobody to get hurt, because you know he started running towards the car, because like we were gonna drive the car closer to the trampoline, so we were gonna be moving the car. You didn't want nobody to get hurt. I mean, ultimately, we probably should have told, but
yeah,
fuck it.
yeah.
What can we
It
do?
was like, and that's the same thing with the Power Driver. We didn't tell anybody about the first one. I didn't know about the other ones till you told me literally
Yeah,
on the fly.
I did. Yeah.
But the first one, okay, so in SGW, it's always been banned. I've always said no power drivers. I don't care if you are perfect at power drivers and your opponent feels even better afterwards. No power drivers. Said that since day one. Even in EPW, I wasn't really in charge, but I said no power drivers so nobody gets hurt. And then out of nowhere, all they see is that this big plant thing in between my legs. We go up,
Boom.
we go,
Yeah, and
and then
I remember Zach, or whatever, Ryan Blade. My bad. Ryan Blade was like caught off guard because so obviously there was supposed to be more to all of these SGW shows going into the later months and shit. But obviously, like we knew SGW was ending before, like I think it was before me and Blade aired. Um,
yeah,
we knew SGW was closing, so everybody just gave up on the content. But me being selfish, rightfully so, I was like, my shit's still airing, you know. Um, you know, Termination was supposed to also feature Blade versus the show, and in that match they were practicing and planning a Canadian Destroyer spot, which I have the footage somewhere of them practicing that. But yeah, Blade was shocked, and then came like 6 or 7 more.
yeah, like okay. So Blade, out of the corner of my eye, I go down. I don't remember if I look over, but I know out of the corner of my eye, I see him go. Like he's very shocked, and like off to the side, you really can't see them, but everybody else is shocked too.
Yeah, no,
And because
and I think like for me, like because I had to convince you to do the pile driver. For me,
yeah,
it was kind of like I'm not home talent for you. You know, I'm not SGW contracted. If I want to take a pile driver, it's my body, my career. I'm not on your roster. I don't got to follow your rules like that, and I can take it safely. You know,
yeah,
um, so we did it, and I think that really the car spot and that pile driver marathon, I think, in my opinion, kind of saved that match. In my
yeah. If it
opinion,
wasn't for that, that match would have went downhill. And then I do want to talk about the power drivers because I hit the first one, match is over. So I'm like, all right, I'm gone. And I thank you for the match. I go down to you. I'm like, thank you for the match. You're like, go again. I was like, what? Go again. Home? What? Hold on. What? Go again. So I get you. Go down.
yep.
All right, that's gotta be it. Go again. What?
Yeah,
Boom.
like, we did it like 6 or 7 times, and I think like the last one you were like, okay, no, I'm done, I'm leaving, and then I told the show who was the ref, I was like, no, you go tell him to come back and give me one more.
Yeah, because like I was like, okay, so we had ropes. I get on the other side of the ropes. I'm sitting up to get down because like you sink into the trampoline, so you have to really try to get out. And so he's like, he whispers in my ear, he said, Anthony said, do it again. I was like, let's go. So I went in there, grabbed him, boom. I was like, all right, I'm
I was really trying
going.
to write myself off because like that was like my final like match. Like I was like, I'm not coming back, you know.
Yeah, because when we were filming it, we didn't know. Like we had an idea, but we didn't know if
Yeah, a
SGW was
lot of
shut
shit
down.
was falling apart for SGW, and then on top of that, like when we filmed that match, I had an idea, kind of like I wanted to bring back FBW, but wasn't sure. So like my idea was if I take all these power drivers, regardless of the power driver being on a trampoline or whatever, it's still a power driver, you know.
Yeah, it's still a power driver.
Yeah.
Like
So
it's
I
still.
was like, if I took these many kayfabe wise, I'm either gonna be gone for a very long time, or I'm not coming back ever.
Yeah,
So that was kind of my idea. But that obviously led to you coming into FBW, and you come into FBW and you won the FBW United States Championship. So, what is your thoughts
I'm
about becoming the first ever U.S. champ?
I'm the goat. I mean, no, but seriously, I was very honored. Obviously, for those who don't know, that title was originally the SGW United States Champion, but
Yeah, so
that
let's talk about that. You know, obviously the only reason why we brought in that as the like I'm not really the one for replica titles. Shit, like you can see behind me. That's what I did to my replica titles. I didn't like using replica titles, but the NWA logo isn't noticeable too much if you don't look too closely. And you guys retired the SGW US title very quickly after its, introduction. So I was like, you know what? It was such a tiny blimp on the radar. Why not use it? But what happened to the SGW US title? Why did it be retired so quick?
okay. So I was never a huge fan of having a mid card title. I was fine with having a hardcore championship because that is what it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's halfway defended anyway. So, but the U.S. Championship wasn't really my idea. The person who normally supplied the championships for SGW was Damian Pryor. And so he got the title, and then I think it was his idea to originally bring it in. So I was like, let's do it, but we're going to introduce it at Homecoming. So we introduced it. At that time, we had more people on the roster, and then we lost a couple people after it was introduced.
Yeah, I
And it
remember
got to the point where,
it was after my first trip. That was
yeah,
like when the crack that crumbled F or SGW began. And I
yeah,
remember I was the one to make the call to deactivate the US title. Do you remember that?
I remember it barely, but
Because
like
I remember
I know
you were in and out. You came back for my second trip, but like during that period you were out, Damien was out.
yeah,
Um, the show came back in, but yeah, no, I made the call to deactivate the US title. Because like
yeah.
let's be honest, like after my first trip, I kind of became a really big, part of like decisions of SGW. Like I booked Summer Chaos, or no, not Summer Chaos, that's FBW. Champions Chaos. I booked Summer Bash. So like, and then I helped book the Rumble, Vengeance, Termination, but obviously with the cracks and what SGW became, none of that shit got filmed or produced. But yeah, I made the call to end the SGW US title.
And we didn't need it because, like, number one, it was falling apart, like you're saying, but like there was barely anybody. I mean, there's a lot going on at that time. It should have went a whole different direction, but I guess in the end, it all worked itself out.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure, and obviously you gifted me that title, so it's here to stay in FBW, and I held the title, and then we feuded over the US title to get that title up and going. Um, but now you're the FBW undisputed title, so you won all the gold that FBW has to offer already this year. How does it feel to be the FBW undisputed champ? Because like I mean, for me, like it like my time in SGW holding the SGW title, even though it wasn't a custom title, it still stood for and represented SGW, and it's still like it's hard to dawn. Like I went out of state and I won a title out of state. So how do you feel about being the
It's
SGW
very,
champ or the FBW
it's
champ?
very surreal. Like, number one, I never thought it would happen. I know for the longest you're like, yeah, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And then when it was time to come down and we were deciding we're gonna film this and that, I thought it came together beautifully. Like I loved the match I wanted in it. Somehow won match of the year. Um, like it was a great match that I wanted in. So not only that, and the ending of the match was something that looking at it as a fan, I would have never expected that. Like the whole thing was cinema. So like I won it beautifully.
Uh huh.
I'm the FBW champion, a championship out of state that for the longest we've talked about me winning that and you winning up here. Now we've done it.
Yeah, dreams come
Like
true.
we've literally done everything we said we were gonna do.
Yeah, no. How do you feel about winning match of the year? Because like like FBW polls like in wars, they're legit. It's really up to the fans, and like we're not allowed to vote. We're not allowed to get involved. If people try cheating, I cut votes. Like it's like legit polls. So the like legit the community voted for you to be match of the year. How do you feel about that?
I was shocked when it happened because honestly, I was expecting rivalry of the year. I know ego me. Look at me, I'll have an ego. But I was expecting to win rivalry of the year. And then when I won match of the year instead, I'm like, what? And then like obviously I'm very honored to have been voted into that
Oh no, I'm
position.
I'm I'm not gonna lie. I was very proud of you versus Blade for the FW title. Like I remember I was on music and I remember like talking to you guys or like signaling you guys, at some points during the match like to tell you to keep going cuz I know you guys tried ending it early at one point, but I was like, "No.
Yeah, no, that
This
was
match
my
is good."
call because like I had for those who don't know, my cardio is horrible. So like I will try to end something like that
Yeah,
if
and
you let
I was
me.
like, "No, we got to keep this. We got to keep this good shit going on. We can go on a little longer."
Like I called finish, and either me or him looked at you, and you were like, "No, keep going." And
Yeah,
so we
no,
had to
like
keep going.
that match I'm really like I know me and B at Holiday Havoc, that was the runner up. And it was really close. Like the we almost tied for match of the year, but I mean, it's just an award. I'm glad you guys got the recognition. But yeah, like those polls were like legit, no bullshit.
And not
But
only that, but I don't know if you realize this or not. It was me versus Blade, two SGW guys. So being able to pull that off in FBW was amazing because like it showed, hey, them Georgia guys can go if you let them go. So we went. So I
no,
mean,
it
it
was a
was
really good match. I'm not gonna lie. I'm very proud of what we've all accomplished this year, and obviously we have more trips to come. We have more stuff to film, more matches, more stories to tell. Um, but what do you call it? Yeah, no, those were awards were legit, not me picking what I thought was best produced. Um,
because I was in everything.
no, dude, what pissed me off was I almost won everything. And I think, some of it, like, I think it's just like buddies, just, oh, they see my name, so fuck it. Let me,
Yeah,
like me, like, I won Wrestler of the Year, but realistically, like, I didn't have that stellar of a year. I had an average year, like, I won the US title for a little bit, sure. I had a good feud with, Big B. Um, but I didn't have like a crazy run. Like realistically, it should have been B or Blade to win Wrestler of the Year. And I'm not gonna lie, the only reason why Blade had such a good year, even though he doesn't do promos like that or whatever, is because I felt bad for what happened in SGW. His title run didn't really amount to nothing. But um, you're in FBW, you've seen all this. What like for real on a real note outside of character, what are some goals left that you have to accomplish here in FBW?
I've said it before. I'll continue to say it for as long as I'm in backyard wrestling. I want to help make FBW the top company in backyard wrestling. By the end of this year, 2025, I want FBW to be talked about as you do not want to sleep on those guys. You want to be tuned in every single episode that we drop. I want that. I'm already the champion. So I guess one of my goals is to hang on to that. But my real goal is to help build FBW. I
I
mean,
respect
double
that.
champion would be nice, Booker man, but I
He
mean,
said,
it's not.
"Do I got a pen around here?" No, I don't. Fuck. I don't got a pen. I guess I don't write no shit no more.
I got a pencil.
He said, "Nah, that shit can get erased. That's why I got to be a pen." This is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm the booker. But no, so what is one of your favorite moments here in FBW so far? You've been in FBW since, well, you debuted technically at Resurgence with your little vignette, but you've been in FBW for majority of 2024. You've had a decent resume of what you've done in FBW. So out of all of your appearances, matches, whatever, what is your favorite moment or accomplishment or whatever? What is your favorite thing that you've done in FBW in 2024?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to just pick one because WrestleBash stands out to me. Becoming FBW Undisputed Champion stands out to me. Turning on Violence Enterprise stands out to me. Because, like, the debut was amazing for Violence Enterprise. I loved it. But the ending was just that much better. Because, like, you don't see it coming. Obviously, we kind of, spoiler alert, we kind of messed up the ending with Luke Cannon. I was supposed to turn on him too, spoiler alert. But the ending was just that good because, like, okay, we're back on top. Violence Enterprise is back on top. Let's go. And then I hand Cannon the belt. Boom. Boom. Like, oh my God. Like, to me, it was so good.
Like I posted a YouTube short of the turn, and like it got like thousands of views. And it's really interesting because I mean, Violence Enterprise was a idea that we were forming and building before you even came into FBW. Like that was like we were really trying to work out the niche and like the story and the direction of Violence Enterprise because I knew I wanted you to be a faction leader.
Yeah.
So your favorite moment was turning and the ending of Violence Enterprise. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it was just shocking. Like, even I get lost in the moment when I go back and watch it because, like, you really don't see it coming. The leader's champion, he should already be happy. He should be happy, right? In theory, he should be happy. And then, boom, he turns on
but no,
his
I
his
mean,
monster.
we did a pretty good job like building up to like the cracks of Big B because if you really think about it, after WrestleBash 8, like the peak of like Violence Enterprise, Big B went on a downfall, and that was done, you know, to put the cracks. Like man, like the next big thing, he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's losing.
If you go and you find the promos, I talk about him losing. And, like, as it goes on, the talking about him losing gets more and more aggressive. And then, like, so in a way you can see it, but at the same time, it's like that Big B's a monster if you really think about it.
Yeah, because
So
I mean, realistically, he had to go on a losing streak for you to get yourself in the title picture, for you to want to turn your back on him. So all this was done for a reason, and I think Violence Enterprise has to go down as one of the best thought out, factions or teams or groups or whatever in FBW history.
and for those watching, I don't know what this is, and no spoilers, but if you think you've seen the end of it, you haven't seen anything yet.
This motherfucker, he's doing the goddamn gimmick work on a goddamn non-gimmick show.
No, but no, not in
Nah,
character,
nah,
but
nah.
like as far as like stories go.
This man loves kayfabe more than the fucking wrestlers in the '80s, and I sat down shooting with the Saint too.
But like, I don't want to spoil it for everyone because it's gonna be fun to watch. Trust me. But
Oh
from
yeah,
what
no,
we're playing,
2025 is going to be a good year for FBW.
yeah, like that's what I mean. Like, I'm not talking about like, okay, yeah, Violence Enterprise, yeah, that's gonna be a huge part of it. But 2025 for FBW is gonna be an amazing year. Like, without spoiling anything, you're gonna love what you see.
So we've had a lovely conversation. We're definitely going to do more of these, and hopefully you guys stick around for more episodes of SmackYard Radio with the host, myself, Anthony Aries. But before we wrap this stuff up, real quick, what are some things that you are grateful for in your backyard wrestling journey, just to reflect and really, you know, really just
My
to reflect?
friendship, my friendships, that's one. Um, the opportunities I've had, that's a huge thing right there. Because, like, opportunity and friendships, without those two things, obviously we're backyard wrestling. So without those, you're not going to get anything done. Um, and since I'm working on improving it, my health, because, like, we've talked about it here today. Termination, I was in the worst shape of my life, and I'm working on getting better. Like, I'm not going to say next time you see me in the ring, I'm going to be the best thing you've ever seen. I might be worse. Who knows? But being able to even think about getting that better, I'm very grateful for that. So, yeah, those are three things right there I'm grateful for. I can't really think of anything else because I have an ego.
All right, my guy. I appreciate you hopping on for today's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been SmackYard Radio with your host, Anthony Aries. If you guys like this episode and want to see more, definitely hit that subscribe button and that like button. And real quick, once again, thank you to our sponsors, the Backyard Wrestling Nexus, the home of some of the best backyard wrestling in the community today, and SportsWire Radio for being a beacon of podcast, live streams, interviews of backyard wrestling's help showing some of the stories on a bigger platform and on a platform of backyard wrestlers. So thank you to the Backyard Wrestling Nexus and SportsWire Radio. It's been Anthony Aries with Sam Reeves. Thank you guys for watching SmackYard Radio.